So lately I've been embarking on a coding journey, specifically learning JavaScript. And I think we need to stop asking the question, is learning to code worth it? I've gotten comments on recent videos of people telling me that learning code isn't worth it anymore. AI is going to make coding obsolete, blah, 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 all this stuff. And you know, when I think about why I decided to learn coding, it wasn't because I asked myself, do I think it's worth it? I think that question is a really poor marker to make a decision off of. And so in this video, I want to talk about why that is, why asking the question, is learning to code worth it? Why is that a poor question to ask? And more importantly, what's the better question that we should be asking ourselves? And so that's kind of like what I'm going to dive into in this video. So for those of you that don't know, on this channel, I've been documenting my journey with learning various tech skills. So it started with UX design, and then it went into Webflow development, and now I'm learning coding, specifically JavaScript, to help the websites that I make in Webflow just have more functionality to them and whatnot. And so I think like when I first started UX design, like my journey from the very beginning, I will say that like the question I asked myself is getting in the UX design worth it? And I think a lot of people ask that question, and I think a lot of people ask that question regarding coding. And I do think that it's a flawed way to decide whether or not you should decide to do something or not. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but like the main reason why it's a very like poor foundation to build a decision off of is that it's a very outcome focused question. Like, because what do we mean? I think it's important to define what worth it means. It sounds trivial, but definitions for this kind of thing are important. So worth it, for the most part, most people are going to say that worth it means get a job. So if someone says, is it worth it to learn to code? What does that really mean? It means, is learning to code worth my time? And is that time going to get me a requisite reward? And that requisite reward is a fulfilling job. And so if you think about that, if someone decides that coding is worth it from that standpoint, then that means that everything that they do is not worth it in and of itself. What I mean is like, if you only decide to pursue coding or any kind of like tech skill because you deem it to be worth it, and by worth it, it means that you'll be able to get a fulfilling job in this career, then all you're seeing it as is a means to an end. And so with learning any skill, not even like tech related, but like any skill in general, I think that this applies. If your whole reason for learning it is based solely off of getting a job, it's just not like it doesn't allow for a lot of longevity. And so when I talk about it being a very outcome focused thing, you know, there's a whole journey that you have to go through to learn how to code. And I'm in that journey right now. Like I'm learning it. And so if I were only focused on getting a job, then all the stuff that I learn, I wouldn't really care about, and I wouldn't find any enjoyment in doing it, because my sole focus would just be on that one solitary thing of, oh, I need to get that job. And so everything that I do before that, all the months, potentially years that I spend, all those skills that I learn, I don't give a shit about that really. I'm just doing this as a means to an end because I want this job that pays pretty well and supposedly is going to be very fulfilling. And so I think a lot of people approach learning tech skills like that, and they ask this question on whether or not it's worth it, and they build their whole framework around it. And it's just not a strong indicator. The other reason for it is like, imagine if that's your sole motivator for wanting to learn any kind of tech skill is because you deem it as worth it from the standpoint of being able to get a job, then the irony of that is that when you reach that job, or when you finally get that job, you reach your goal, you hit that metric, yes, I got the job, then what now? Like you've done the thing. You've got the job. The thing is, though, is that because you had a outcome-oriented reward or outcome-oriented goal, and you've now hit that outcome, the likelihood of you getting burnt out, of you getting frustrated, of you realizing that, oh, you know what, maybe this isn't the career for me, or just feeling stagnant is going to be a lot higher because you already hit that metric. And so everything beyond that is like, well, what is that? You're just kind of doing the thing. And I think a lot of people, I don't have evidence for this, but I think, you see so many people that do videos on saying of how they got into some sort of tech job, and then they say, oh, it's not really all that it was cracked up to be. It wasn't what was promised. It wasn't what they thought it was going to be, and it was ultimately a letdown. And that's not the case for everyone, obviously. There's a lot of people that end up liking their job, but for a good amount of people, they're in that spot. And I really think that the reason that is, and something that I try to avoid, is focusing solely on this job-oriented outcome of, I am only doing this in order to get a job. Because those people who end up being unfulfilled in their later career, they never developed the ability to enjoy the process. They never enjoyed the ability to work on projects, to solve problems, to actually try to build things. And because they never built the ability to, holy shit, there's a huge daddy long legs next to me. Because they never built the ability to enjoy the process of actually learning to code or whatever tech skill you're learning, that translates into, if you're not interested in learning to code on your own, what makes you think you're going to be interested in coding at a job? I mean, sure, you get paid to do it, but money will only take you so far when it comes to fulfillment. And so, I know I'm speaking of this from a very odd point because I don't have a tech job right now, but I do know what it's like to go for a career solely based on getting a job, or to learn a skill solely based on getting a job. That's what I did with my career as a PT. I didn't have an intrinsic interest in that. Holy crap, there's a huge spider. 1 second. Ah! Oh my God, that thing was huge. No joke, that daddy long legs was like that fucking big. Holy shit. Okay, so anyway, I did that for physical therapy. I learned that skill solely because I wanted a job from it, and lo and behold, it ended up being unfulfilling. So what's the antidote to this? I think, you're a smart person. You can probably guess what the antidote to this is, but I think we need to stop asking ourselves, is it worth it to learn code? And ask ourselves, do I think it would be fun to learn code? Do I think it'd be fun? Right? Because that's what it's about. That is a very process-oriented way to solve a problem. Because it's a very process-oriented way to arrive at a decision, it has a much stronger foundation, and it has a lot more longevity to it. And so, when I decided to learn coding, I get, and reasonably so, but I get a lot of comments of people saying that I flip-flop a lot and I need to be more focused. And you know what? I'm not going to poo-poo that. Yeah, to a degree, I probably need to. However, there's usually solid reasons for why I decide to pivot to other things. And so my decision to want to learn coding isn't because I think it's worth it from the standpoint that I think I'll be able to get a job in it. I mean, I know that that's a possibility, but it's not the sole reason I'm deciding to do it. The reason that I decided to do it is I think it'd be fun. I think it would be fun to learn it. I think it would be fun to learn a language that allows me to just make more functional websites, add more complexity to my websites to actually serve a purpose. So to me, it just sounds like a pretty cool adventure to go on. And so that's why I've been doing it. And I think that, I think more people should arrive at their decisions based off of that, because I'm having a fun time with learning this. And I think that I also take more time to try to understand it, because if I was just trying to learn all these front-end languages in order to get a job, then it would be so easy. It would be a lot easier for me to try to take shortcuts with everything, of trying to like speed run my way into getting a job. But because I'm enjoying the process, then I can take my time with it. And I can really, if there's something I don't understand, I can take the time to dive into that subject and figure out how it works. And so that's cool to be able to do. And frankly, it's just more fulfilling. And the thing about this is, because it's process oriented, the fuel for my like motivation to do it, in theory, it never stops, right? Because when the goal is the process, there's really no endpoint, right? So my goal is just to learn JavaScript, maybe other languages if I want to. And because that is my goal, I can just keep improving and improving and improving. And because I find that to be fun, there's really no stop to it. And that just adds to the longevity of it. And the thing is, like, I think some people would see this and be like, wow, Jansley, this is a bunch of copium. This is a lot of copium going on right now of you not being able to get a job. But frankly, I'm not really trying to get a job at this point. And like, the thing is, like, even if you want to get a job, because a lot of people obviously want to, I can't ignore the fact that a lot of people end up wanting to learn tech because they want to get a job, right? And I think you can still do that. The good thing about the process that I'm doing right now is I can still work towards getting a job if I want to. It's just I'm deciding not to place my whole emphasis on that, because when I do, and I certainly did that when I was doing UX design, my whole reason for doing UX design is I wanted a UX design job, right? And that wasn't fulfilling for me. I didn't enjoy it. The projects that I worked on sucked ass. And it wasn't because the reason a project sucked ass, well, some of it was because I was a noob, but some of it was because I just wanted to put out something. And another thing, especially with people who are very outcome oriented when it comes to wanting to learn tech, is the projects that they make are not passion projects. They are projects that again, I'm sort of generalizing here, but a lot of people will make projects that they think will impress an employer. And they don't actually like dig down to try to maybe solve a problem of their own, because they don't care to do that. They want to do the fast path. And so that's what I did with UX design, is I made projects that I thought would be cool, or rather, no, I didn't. I made projects that I thought would be cool to employers. So they weren't necessarily projects that I was inherently interested in, but I thought that they would impress my employers. And so I decided to do that. And I think that really shows in the project, because if you're not passionate and you don't have like a strong why behind a project that you're working on, it's going to show when you present it. It's going to show when you work on it, because there's a lack of heart behind it. And I know that sounds like kind of weird or whatever, but I think it's true. And so, like, on the flip side, if you're focused more on the process, I can take the time to figure out an actual problem that I want to solve, a project that I actually want to work on. And because I'm invested in it and I'm actually interested in it, that project will end up being much higher quality, right? Because I actually care about it, and I'm not doing it to just tick this box of, oh, I'm trying to get a job or whatever. And here's the interesting thing. And again, I don't have proof for this because I don't have a tech job. But my suspicion is that the people who are more process focused, the people who have gotten tech jobs that are more process focused and weren't so dead set on the outcome of getting a job, my guess is that they were probably able to get a job, maybe not faster, but once they started looking, people probably preferred their projects more because they spent more time on them. They were higher quality. And so all this to say, like, I think that by focusing on the process of enjoying learning tech and learning coding, I think that the byproduct of that is that you'll probably end up being better able to get a job anyway once you do start applying. So this is like the road that I'm going down, right? So I'm not so much focused on getting a job. I have one. It pays the bills. Do I love it? No. But I'm okay with that because I now have this thing that I do like. And I do like learning, well, right now the JavaScript course that I'm doing, I very much enjoy it. And I'm looking forward to see, what kinds of things I'm able to make from it when I'm done. I think the possibility of that is just really cool. And there's no crunch for me to try to get a job as fast as I possibly can. And with that, there's just a lot less stress. And that is really freeing. Because I think a lot of time we can be really, really future focused. And when we're future focused, we don't really take stock of, things are pretty nice, right? Like I'm sitting in this cool park, got this creek here, and it's just nice. Nature sounds, all this stuff. Sometimes we don't appreciate all this stuff because we're so focused on the future. So, to sum up this video, if you are someone that has asked the question, is getting into tech worth it? Is coding worth it? Is design worth it? I really encourage you to switch the question that you ask yourself. So instead of asking if you think something is worth it, which just is it's just a very poor foundation to make a decision off of, instead ask yourself, would this be fun to learn? Because that's just a process-oriented experiment. And by the way, it might not be that fun. And if that's the case, then you can try something else. I've lucked out, and what I'm doing now I do find to be quite fun. Sure, it's frustrating at times, but overall, I enjoy, weirdly, I enjoy the difficulty of it. And it's like, I don't know, for me it's fun to learn difficult things. And maybe for some people JavaScript isn't difficult at all, but for me there's a lot of aspects to it that are difficult. And supposedly the first language is the hardest anyway. But anyway, I digress a little bit. I encourage you to ask that, to change it from, is this something you should learn? Is it worth it to learn this? To, is this something that could be fun? And I don't know, I think approaching not only tech-related questions like this and career-related questions, but I think this could probably apply to other areas of life as well. So, with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm sure this is probably divisive, and I'm probably going to get some negative feedback, but probably some positive feedback too. But either way, I encourage both. I don't mind. I can take the heat. So yeah, I guess I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye-bye.